If you hood educated, I'm glad you made it. Allow me to unfold my knowledge, wisdom, and understanding from a hood brother's point of view to all of you, here, there, and everywhere. Now check me out.
Analyst and criminal defense attorney Joey Jackson. Joey, it's good to see you. So both autopsies, state and independent, are done. Nothing has been released. Cause of death, toxicology, none of it. From a legal standpoint, is that silent standard operating procedure?
Yes, it is. Okay, good morning to you, Bianna. I mean, a case of this magnitude, I think in any investigation, you want to ensure that that information, at least initially, especially when you're going to present it to a grand jury, which is what authorities have indicated. They're going to hold tight with this information and then eventually they'll put it before a grand jury. I think certainly there's a lot people in the public who want to know what happened. And as a result of that, Bianna, I think eventually we will find out essentially what happened here. But a lot of questions, and I think that the authorities have been counting on the autopsy report, the toxicology report, which would go to show what, if any, substances were in his body to determine what's what. I think it's also important that there was an independent autopsy done here, funded by Colin Kaepernick, such that the family could rely upon any findings that were ultimately unearthed by the autopsy.
Those friends that were with him on the boat, they've all retained attorneys. As a defense attorney yourself, do you read much into that at all?
So anyone has a right to have an attorney, but I think there are significant questions in this case with respect to what these friends did, what they knew, and their timeline. Whenever you have a teenager where leaves his phone apparently with his friends, why? Says to the friends, according to them, he wants to stay on this island to talk to a girl, why? Leaves the keys with the friends, why? And then, of course, you have apparently this young lady calling the mother or contacting the mother, at least the reports indicate, saying, hey, it may have been a high and by, but he said he was going with his friends. Why am I saying that? These are discrepancies. You have the FBI involved, of course. The FBI is in looking at the different cell phone data, the cell phone GPS tracking to determine where people were and when they were there. And so there's a lot of outstanding questions. You've got 60 witnesses in addition to these three friends that were with him, who have been spoken to and investigated. And so, yes, I think based upon the nature of the case, based upon the nature of the timeline of when the friends say he left and when they last saw him, based upon their entire story, I think it's important for them to have counsel. They may very well, depending upon a grand jury investigation, need one.
A family burying their son today with still so many unanswered questions.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Joey. Good to see you.
Bianca.
The autopsy results are in. Both of them, not just one. But the cold-blooded part about this whole demonstration is this right here. How is it that the independent autopsy is out? How is it that Benjamin Crump's autopsy, the independent autopsy results are done and out, that we get to understand what's going on? And that the Mississippi Examiner, their autopsy is still under investigation. Why is that? Why is that right there? According to the sheriff down there in Ocean Springs, this is not a criminal investigation, right? He was the first one that came out and said, hey man, there's no foul play. The boy done drown, right? So why is y'all holding those results? Why aren't y'all coming out with those results? How is it that an independent autopsy comes out before y'all's and y'all had the body first? And then the cold-blooded part about all that is this right here. Benjamin Crump saying that his autopsy revealed that the young man had a laceration on the back of his head. On the back of his head. And you know, a lot of people are saying that this discoloration could be from the body decomposing and stuff like that. No. Because if that right there was the case, why it ain't lacerations or red spots and all bruises or whatever all over the body? Why is it just on the back of the head? Check it out.
To the answers of why Nolan Wells is not with us. So he did that there and was very straightforward, very open. Very open. He says, however, dissection of the back of the head during the layered posterior neck dissection revealed a 12 by 8 inch focal area of red discoloration in the deep soft tissues overlaying the occipital bone. And he talked about how he found red discoloration when he cut open into the back of his head towards the occipital bone, and he saw the red discoloration, and we actually saw the pictures of it. It's significant. You can't help but notice, why is this dark red here in the back of his head? And so he was important to note that in his report. He said that etiology of this finding is unclear. There are no lacerations of the overlaying skin nor fractures of the underlying skull. These findings are inconclusive for perimortem injury due to both the extensive decomposition and the absence of associated injuries. This finding, however, is significant enough to be highlighted in this preliminary report for further investigation. It is important to reiterate that the finding could not have been observed in the first autopsy because the posterior head and neck dissection were not performed. He said another limitation, move this back here. Another limitation faced by this forensic pathologist was the absence of the anterior internal neck structures. The trachea and the laryngeal cartilage, the thyroid horn, and the hyoid bone were not received with the body. So he's saying that the throat was not received with the body when he got Nolan Wells' body in Washington, D.C. to perform the second autopsy. And so let's discuss that with what he said about that. He said, it is assumed that the initial pathologist retained these structures for additional evaluation. He said the retention of the anterior neck structures during an initial autopsy is a common forensic pathology practice. He was chief medical examiner for 7 years in Washington, D.C., and he said that if they had concern about throat or any fracture or compression of the throat, they too will hold them back. He doesn't know why they held the throat back, but he said the throat was not with the body of Nolan Wells when he received it in Washington, D.C. to perform the second autopsy. He said, nevertheless, a posterior neck dissection performed without review of the anterior neck structures is incomplete. Therefore, this pathologist cannot rule out injury to the neck as a contributor or a cause of death. He said he would need to have the medical examiner in Mississippi allow him to review the throat. That's why he said his autopsy is undetermined pending investigation. Remember, it's about transparency. Because the initial autopsy rightfully removed and dissected each organ, there are additional limitations inherent in the second autopsy of Nolan Wells. The most significant of the limitations was the inability to directly observe the airway and the lungs for water and directly observe the stomach for gastric contents.
Y'all see what I'm saying? But not only that though, how is it that you send the body to the independent autopsy person without the throat? The whole throat is gone. Like, I don't believe that's normal behavior. And the reason why I say that is because all the other organs in the body left and went to the independent autopsy person. What about the throat? How you gonna send the heart, the lungs, the stomach, and all that old type of stuff? The stuff that you done tampered with already, but you don't send the throat. What's so important about the throat? That's what, look, it seems fishy. It don't seem right. And the fact that y'all holding on to stuff and wait a minute. Why we can't see what the throat was like? See, that makes me think there's something going on with Nolan's throat. Was it crushed? You see? Was his throat crushed? Could that red laceration around his neck be a part of what was going on if somebody was choking him or crushing his throat? Crushing his windpipe? You see what I'm saying? Like, how do y'all do that? That's what I don't understand. You send the body with everything except the throat. If that don't make you say, wait a minute, hold on, I don't know what will. It's so much fishy stuff going on with this demonstration right here. And I'm talking about, it seems like people are trying to hide stuff. People are trying to keep stuff secret. People are not revealing the truth about what happened that day. And now they ain't revealing the truth about the autopsy. The only thing right now being that they done took the brother's throat and then revealed that to the independent autopsy person, something got to be going on with the throat. That's the only thing that I can be satisfied with. If they come out and say, hey, you know what? It do look like, something happened. This is a criminal organization. Criminal investigation. He did not die from drowning. He died from something else. Something dealing with his throat. Now, the autopsy guy here, the one that did the independent autopsy, he can't even tell if the man drowned. He can't even tell if his lungs and all that type of stuff was punctured or anything, because the initial autopsy did all that already. Lacerations and everything, did all that already. And so he can't even tell if he drowned or not. It's still undetermined on the independent autopsy person. He's saying that he can't decide. He can't say what killed him. How did he die? He can't do none of that. Because everything has already been tampered with. Tampered with in such a way that he can't even determine if his lungs collapsed. He can't even determine if the brother had a lung full of water. You see what I'm saying? He can't even determine if something was wrong with the stomach. Nothing. You see? Now, some things that he did determine is that there was no lacerations on the skin, all throughout the body. There was no broken bones and stuff like that. No skull fractures or anything like that. Besides, the discoloration behind the skull, behind the head. But other than that, though, there's no broken bones or anything like that. No missing teeth. You see? But the only thing that's getting me is the throat. Why is that? Why they remove the throat and then send the body with the throat? They sent it with everything else except the throat. I wonder, why is that? Listen, being that the throat is missing, y'all. Dr. Mitchell, when I was saying autopsy person, I'm talking about Dr. Mitchell. He was the guy that was doing the autopsy reports, right? The independent autopsy report. Being that the throat is missing, he can't determine if Nolan was strangled. if you know something happened to the larynx, if something happened to the his breathing way, he can't determine none of that because the throat is missing. That is very important. That is very important. And these guys down there in Mississippi hasn't released anything. Now, allow me to say this right here. If something is wrong with the throat, if something is criminal happening and they believe that this is a murder, then they should have been came out and said, hey, look, check this out. Nolan was murdered. You see what I'm saying? He got injuries to the neck. We did our investigation on the neck, on his throat, and his throat was just smashed in. It was smashed in. It was caved in. It was crushed. You see, they should be coming out with that type of stuff right now. Because then if they know, if the autopsy examiner understand that this right here was crushed and that right there could have resulted in his death, then this needs to be full-fledged criminal investigation. People need to be getting arrested. Search warrants need to be sent out. You see what I'm saying? Instead of these guys just sitting at the crib laughing and giggling and all this old type of stuff. You know, because if it's a criminal investigation now, that gives law enforcement more power, you see, to do things that they normally couldn't do if it wasn't a criminal investigation. Because they still looking at it like it was an accidental drowning. There's no foul play. So as long as that right there is there, the only thing that they got is that. They ain't got nothing criminal, so they can't get search warrants and run up in people's houses and search warrants for the phones and all that old type of stuff. They can't do that. But being that they took that throat, and being that there's so many people that was out there and don't nobody still know nothing, ain't nobody came out. After all 60 witnesses, ain't nobody. Look, that's just like this right here. If you go to a party, I don't care if you on the other side of the party. If you go to a party where there's 300 people and some people get to fighting, somebody gonna see what happened. If somebody get to just acting crazy, somebody gonna see what happened. And you mean to tell me that according to what they saying, this boy done drowned and ain't nobody seen nothing? And like I said in my last video, in 10 years, in a decade, he is the only person that drowned out there? In 10 years, he the only one that drowned out there. All the drunken parties, all the 4th of Julys, he is the only one that drowned out there at Horn Island. It don't make no sense to me. Y'all get in the comments and y'all let me know what y'all think about this whole demonstration. Especially, you know, with the autopsy coming out, the independent autopsy coming out before the Mississippi autopsy. Y'all get in the comments and y'all let me know what y'all think about this demonstration. This is Hood Educated, not lame related. Peace and love, and y'all take care of yourself out there. If I said anything that caused you to think, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed already. And if you're feeling generous, please make a small donation to the channel. Peace and love.